Welcome to my new project I've been working on, where I talk about potentially lesser known indie games that are actually pretty cool. From the time I started working on this video, it had been 1 week since the new year started, and I have found quite a few cool games that I think are worth talking about. Today, I have 3 new games that have come out this year. Yes, 2026. Each of these games are quite different from each other and grabbed my attention in distinct ways. Here's the kicker. Combined, the price of these games at the time of this video come out in total to a little over just $20. Alright, how about we begin? Jungle Breakbeats, Memory Card, Game Manual, Badass Low Poly Mechs. No, this is not some obscure PS1 title I found in a bin of used games back in '98. This is Vital Shell, a new survivor-like game by developer Marvin Wizard. Look, I know there are a lot of survivor-likes out there these days, but the ones that stand out for me usually have to be carried by something that really stands out. For Vital Shell, it is clearly the aesthetic. The PS1 gets a lot of love these days from the indie scene, and not to say a lot of them are doing it wrong, but many seemingly just make low poly models and textures and call it a day. I am being honest when I say that Vital Shell might be the closest game at making me believe that I'm being pranked, and this is in fact a forgotten PlayStation game I found in a bargain bin somewhere. I mean, look at this UI, this font, these glorious pre-rendered AMVs. Simplistic, playing with limitations, but really stylish. Also, I'm on an island. I love this. Hats off here for the presentation. Gameplay-wise, we are looking at something similar to Brotato, where you have waves of enemies on a timer with upgrades showing up in between. I like that there are many methods of upgrades here, beyond just stat boosts. Customizing your weapon with gems that can influence special effects, and modifications that power up your character beyond stats, all prioritize a strategy on how you build your character. Also, there are plenty of unlockables here, new weapons, characters, permanent stat boosts, gems, and more. I really like that Vital Shell is pretty fair while still being decently challenging. There aren't builds that I've seen yet that just break everything, and I feel like every decision I make does make an impact on my success at later stages. To the previous point, I will say, I wish that you had more attempts to re-roll the upgrades, just because sometimes you'll get 3 upgrades that don't really help. I've had runs where I felt pretty strong, but this game never feels like cruise control. I respect that. Also, just worth noting, I definitely recommend playing on controller over mouse and keyboard. It just feels a lot better. Using the mouse to aim feels a little bit odd. On another note, soundtrack here is pretty cool. I mean, you are hearing it right now. It's very of its era, and it's pretty solid. Nice relaxing music over crazy drum beats fits the game perfectly. One last thing, to Marvin Wizard, if this is your first game or not, I couldn't tell. The game runs and plays perfectly smoothly, and I've yet to run into any bugs. Great work. Hope to see more in the future. In summary, Vital Shell is a survivor-like, and maybe not one that is reinventing the wheel on the gameplay side of things. But it doesn't really need to be. The gameplay here is pretty solid, and most importantly, this PS1 Saturn aesthetic is so well done that for the price of under $5, it's absolutely worth it. If you like survivor-likes or want a portal back to the 90s, definitely recommend this game. Gonna be a thumbs up for me. Oddcore is a game by developer Oddcore. that combines liminal spaces and 2000s Windows backgrounds with high-speed arena shooter and roguelite gameplay. This is another game that really got my attention by just how pleasing everything is to look at. Only after playing it did I realize that this game has so much going on. World hopping, wall jumping, portal jumping, game corruption, bargaining a strict time limit with healing items, an entire Chuck E. Cheese section where the tickets you win provide upgrades. I mean, the soundtrack rotates on a playlist and each song impacts your stats in real time in-game. There is so much creativity here. One piece of advice though, there are a lot of mechanics at play here, so you're going to want to play the tutorial before starting a run. But it is worth it, because the tutorial level is pretty witty and has some cool surprises. Once you start playing, it might take a bit to really get the hang of what really is going on, but when it does click, it feels pretty nice. As a shooter, movement and gunplay here feels pretty tight. You have your traditional tricks, double jumping, wall jumping, fast movement, and then you also have augmentations like slide and body slam, amongst others, which you will unlock as you play more of the game. As for the enemies, there are a decent variety of creatures, and while I do think some of them are a little plain, all of them have their unique ways to cause problems. Would be cool though to see a larger variety of enemies and more that play into the whole 2000s desktop theme more, but we still got a solid amount. Upgrades are what you expect from a roguelike, with power-ups coming in multiple different forms to make you do more damage or protect you from each wave of enemies. Now let's talk about the hub world. It is extremely comfy. There are lots of cool things here, including a roller coaster, a training ground, and diner. And like I mentioned earlier, essentially there's an entire arcade filled with games like whack-a-mole, basketball, coin pushers, and even more. The tickets you get from these games can be spent on unlocking upgrades, but also cosmetic things that spice up the hub world, like a cat, a dog, and hell, even a penguin. The soundtrack here is really solid. Lots of dreamcore and vaporwave. You know, the kind of stuff you'd see in liminal space videos. But all of it's a little bit more energetic and at a higher tempo than usual. It's catchy, ambient, and yeah, very effective. Also, whatever song plays has an inherent effect on your stats. One song playing might cause you to shoot faster at the expense of HP, while another might make you move faster at the cost of damage. The cool thing is that all the songs shuffle on a playlist, kind of like you would on Spotify or Apple Music, so its impact on your run changes while the music does. And yeah, Oddcore is great. If you're looking for a horde shooter with fast movement and a ton of really unique design choices, you can grab this for under $10. It gets another seal of approval for me. Dungeon Antiqua 2 is the second game released on Steam from independent studio, Shiromo Factory. If the graphics don't give you enough of a hint, Antiqua 2 combines elements of Final Fantasy 3, 5, and Wizardry to make a somewhat short but fun turn-based dungeon crawling JRPG. There are quite a few big upgrades from the first, a graphical upgrade, 6 dungeons instead of 1, 10 different jobs to utilize, and transferable skills from one job to another, allowing all sorts of build diversity and experimentation. This new system is the golden ticket, allowing the combat to carry the game through the approximately 9 hours it takes to reach the conclusion. The boss fights here are really nice, and overall pretty difficult. Also, no random encounters. Enemies are on the screen and can be flanked for a first strike and vice versa. One thing I really like is the balance of the game. I feel like both physical and magical classes carry enough firepower to be extremely useful in most circumstances. In fact, there are dungeons that require you to focus primarily on magic or physical abilities, encouraging the player to utilize multiple job skills to tackle these obstacles. Speaking of dungeons, they are all pretty cool. And while I would have liked more in the way of traps and obstacles to overcome, they all do have unique designs, keeping them fresh from dungeon to dungeon. One of my favorites is the one with secret doors and trapdoors that drop you to a floor below. On that point, there are tons of secret areas in the dungeons, which usually contain useful equipment, which I quite like. The soundtrack is pretty standard RPG fare. The one standout being that they specifically use sound fonts from the Super Nintendo Final Fantasy games. Ultimately, I think this is a pretty well put together RPG, with a really good sense of balance and a great core set of mechanics to keep it entertaining from beginning to end. I also gotta say, this job system stuff is one of the most underutilized mechanics in JRPGs, and I want more of it. It will be cool to see where they go next. Could we see a Dungeon Antiqua 3 with 3D graphics and PS1 era combat? You never know. Could be interesting though. Definitely a worthy purchase for under $10, especially if you're a big JRPG fan like me. There you go, 3 games, all out in the literal first week of 2026. If you think January is a slow month for games, I encourage you to continue to keep an open eye for new games from indie developers. There are good games everywhere nowadays. Sometimes you just have to go hunting for them. Here's to a 2026 full of weeks like this one. See you next time.